You're watching the Real Weatherman YouTube channel. We are tracking the first U.S. landfalling storm of the 2025 hurricane season. Stay tuned for all the details, including how it will impact your 4th of July. Alright, so here is the latest on Tropical Storm Chantal, and we now have the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center in Miami. We have the 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time advisory, and you can see the storm itself very close to the coastline now. It's about to make landfall there somewhere in northeastern South Carolina, perhaps even very close to the state line between the Carolinas. But nonetheless, the storm has strengthened. It is now up to 50 mile per hour sustained winds. That has changed since the last advisory. It was that's up from 45. The pressure has also come down from 1,006. Now it's at 1,004. And we also see just a little bit of picking up of speed, now moving to the north at 8 miles per hour as opposed to 7 at the last advisory. So we're starting to see that interaction with the front, of course, and with the Bermuda High, and both those things are working together to help draw this thing further and further north and crash it right into the Carolina coast. So with all that being said, I'm going to switch off the PowerPoint here. And we're gonna take a look. We're just gonna take a look at the radar over the Carolinas. Okay, so we're gonna look out of the Wilmington radar here, and you can see we have multiple rain bands starting to make their way onshore. We have this large rain shield just off the coast of the Southport / Wrightsville Beach / Curie Beach, North Carolina area. It's about to come on shore there, as well as the greater Wilmington area. And with that, you're going to see winds at the bare minimum sustained probably 20 to 30 miles per hour, as well as gusting perhaps into tropical storm force territory. And the same thing, of course, with this band here, this nasty band right here, which you could even say is kind of like the eye wall, though we don't have a very organized system. But you could call this sort of the eye wall, and you even see some lightning strikes, just going to show how active everything is down there with it. But that's also going to be moving onshore, actually not too far from Myrtle Beach, and we're going to see that within the next few hours. So very dangerous conditions moving onshore here as we speak from Tropical Storm Chantal, and we're going to see those tropical storm conditions come on land. We've seen buoy reports throughout the day of tropical storm force wind gusts over 40 miles per hour. We continue to see those reports, and we're going to start to see those reports on land here very shortly. So definitely want to hunker down as we go through the overnight hours, and you want to try to stay put and stay safe. With all of that being said, of course, just the usual housekeeping. Be sure to like the stream down below, subscribe if you have not done so already, and also share the stream with your family and friends, especially anyone who is in these affected areas. And of course, if you really want to support the channel, not just a little bit support it, but you really want to support it, you're absolutely sure you want to support it, go ahead and utilize those links down in the description of the video. Remember that sale that My Patriot Supply is offering on emergency supplies for bad weather events like this, okay, can come in handy. It's still going on, but it only goes on for 3 more days, okay? It runs out on July 8th. That is 3 days from today. So take advantage of that. Use the link down in the description of the stream. Utilize the other links as well. There's links for Ace Hardware, PetSmart, Vistaprint. Even you can get business supplies through that link. I think there's one for Walgreens as well, and there's also I think maybe Cabela's, so you can get you some recreational equipment and whatnot. Also they also sell some emergency supplies and whatnot. So all those are great resources, and use those, and also you get to support the channel, help us out up here at the Red Weatherman studio. But all that being said, I want to now turn our attention from the radar. Obviously, we see the storm coming ashore, and obviously we have seen these shorter, narrower bands come ashore all day across the Carolinas. Okay, they've been dumping some rain off and on throughout our Saturday. Now I want to take us to the National Hurricane Center's website and go over some things. So obviously there you see the storm and its latest details, and you actually see, okay, the tropical storm force wind field. It is knocking on the door of the Carolinas there. All that yellow shading right there, primarily near and east of the center, that is denoted by that X right here. Okay, all that yellow shading, that's your tropical storm force wind field. That's your 39 mile per hour plus sustained winds, and that's about to rotate in there. And you know, you can kind of see if you take sort of a mental picture of this and you combine it with the radar, you can kind of see the correlation there as to, you know, what that's associated with, what's about to move on shore there. But nonetheless, this is what we got going on. Of course, the tropical storm watch was upgraded to a tropical storm warning. Everything you see in blue, that's the tropical storm warning. So you're talking about places like Myrtle Beach, Wrightsville Beach, Wilmington, even going up North Carolina coastline just a little ways. And I think this is pretty much pretty justified here in terms of discriminating really where the tropical storm force winds are most likely at this point. So basically everything from near the Charleston metro area in South Carolina, running pretty far up the coastline there in eastern North Carolina. So with that being said, you're going to see a landfall here in just the next few hours. You're going to see the storm come ashore, and of course with that you will see some coastal flooding. You will see increased amounts of rainfall throughout the night. You will see a lot of rain get dumped as those bands move on shore that I just showed you on the radar screen. Okay, and you're going to see it move inland. Now I want to take a look, you know, further out. Of course, you see the thing it starts to make a turn to the northeast, and of course that's as it's colliding with that front. It really hits that front, and it can't go any further inland. So you see it sort of merge with the front, and it becomes extratropical. The thinking is by the National Hurricane Center by Monday morning. Okay, and it may actually happen a lot sooner than that, and I'm going to show you why. So let's take a look. I want to take a look at the HRRR model, and I'm actually going to zoom in just a little bit on our primary area of interest. Okay, so obviously here's our storm. I'm going to back this up. We're going to use a 0Z run so we can just give us an idea further out. Okay, so here's our storm down here, and just watch. Obviously, it makes that landfall there in northeastern South Carolina here in just a few hours. It moves inland, okay, and then very quickly, okay, where's our storm? Okay, it's been absorbed by that frontal system, and it is dissipated. Okay, that's what's happening to it. That's what you see happening to it. And this is 22Z, so we're talking about 6 p.m. tomorrow night on the East Coast. By then, the storm is pretty much gone, and that's good news for our folks who are perhaps vacationing there, or just the folks that live there in those areas. Okay, that's good news for them. The storm falls apart very, very quickly and doesn't just stall out and dump a bunch of rain and cause a bunch of problems. That being said, flooding will be a major concern with this. Okay, flash flooding is a major concern. I'm going to go back to the National Hurricane Center's website, and we are going to take a look at the rainfall potential. And actually, I think what would do this probably a little more justice as opposed to the rainfall potential is actually the flash flooding potential. where you see a lot of areas from Wilmington down to Myrtle Beach and spreading well inland all the way into Raleigh, Durham, and even almost to Charlotte. You see that that slight risk of flash flooding, and I think that's perhaps even a little bit of an underestimate. Again, as it hits that frontal system, it very much you could see some flooding, downpours, some training of very heavy thunderstorms over certain parts of the Carolinas, and that could cause some major problems. So be very careful, especially as we go through the day tomorrow as the storm moves inland. With that being said, of course, watch for clearing clearing skies, especially to the southwest of the center. Now that does not things will clear out, of course, like I said, to the southwest of where the storm is making landfall very quickly. But that being said, don't be deceived, because that circulation is still there, and it's going to be kicking up the waters, and also rip currents are going to be a major problem. So this is the risk today. Okay, you see the high risk from places like New Brunswick down through Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Florida, as well as from around Myrtle Beach, going all the way up through the Outer Banks, and even all the way up into southeastern Virginia. We're talking about Virginia Beach, Norfolk area. You're under the gun now for that high risk of rip currents. And we change over to tomorrow, same story, okay? We're seeing a very high risk of rip currents from around Myrtle Beach all the way, again, running up the Outer Banks to around Kitty Hawk, Kill Devil Hills area. And with that being said, of course, up and down the East Coast, you have at least, for the most part, a moderate risk. So you definitely want to be very, very cautious if you do decide to get in the water. Like I said, you may even have blue skies overhead, especially, like I said, especially southwest of where the storm actually makes landfall. You may see clear skies. That does not mean the dangers are not present, and I cannot emphasize that enough. With that being said, we also have to watch for just generally as the storm comes on shore. We haven't seen a whole lot of ominous, suspicious activity here, but we do have to watch for the potential of things like tornadoes to potentially spin up as it comes ashore, as these bands keep coming ashore. Like I said, nothing really so far today to watch with this. Haven't seen anything that really looked like it was going to produce anything tornadic, but that is still the case, as still a possibility. As with any landfalling tropical system, you do have the potential for tornadoes to be embedded within some of these bands because of all the extra wind shear that these things bring with them. So while obviously this thing is Chantal, of course, is doing its thing. It's coming ashore there. It's you're about to really places like Caroline Beach, Southport. You're about to really get hit there as that band comes ashore. Okay, you're about to really get hammered for a long period of time, and you're going to see water start to pond on the roadways. You're going to see some coastal overwash. You're also going to see the winds really ramp up here very quickly. And let's take a look at that actually while we're here. Let's take a look at some of these velocities. So I just want to stop this. I'm going to bring it all the way forward. So this here, like this point right here, just off the coastline. We'll call it right here at this little right here over Bald Head Island, okay, or just south of it. So this is looking about, now granted this is about 1,600 feet off the ground, because the radar shoots up, just a little bit, and by the time you get to that point, here's your radar right here, and so it's shooting out, and it's shooting outwards at a slight upward angle. So this is hitting around 1,600 feet above the ground. So this is not necessarily representative entirely of what will happen at the surface, but it is reasonably close to the surface. And with that being said, you have wind speeds being picked up close to 50 miles per hour right there over that southern tip, and that's exactly what's going to be You can see it coming closer, starting to come on shore almost, and that's what's going to be happening. Those brighter greens indicating winds closing in on 50 miles per hour coming right on shore there in southeastern North Carolina, as well as parts of South Carolina as well. And of course, like I said, anywhere you see those high velocities, like this right here. Now, granted, this is 4,000 feet up in the atmosphere. Okay, so we take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but we are seeing in that particular spot we have hurricane force winds being observed by the radar. Okay, literally, let's see, that's 65.1 knots. So that's about 75 mile per hour winds being observed offshore about 4,000 feet up. So that's what we're dealing with, okay? We are dealing with the storm that is not messing around. It's still strengthening. It still has the potential to strengthen before it makes landfall here in a few hours. And it's sitting over the warm waters of the Atlantic, and has, definitely has the capability of doing so. I also want to, very briefly, I want to show the satellite image of it, or at least the not the satellite image, but the infrared image from College of Dupage meteorology site. So there you can see it right there. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. And look at that bad boy. You can clearly see. You can clearly see where roughly the center is. It's not the best defined, but I mean, for a tropical storm we're talking about, this is pretty good. You can clearly see where that eye is. Now, of course, you have thunderstorms blowing up all around the eye, so it's not this crystal clear eye that you would normally think about with a hurricane, but nonetheless it does exist, and we do have a pretty good storm structure here. Obviously, it is lopsided. Most of the convection, most of the activity is east of the center, but nonetheless, we do have the storm structure there, and it has the potential to continue to intensify before it comes on land. In fact, you can see a lot of those brighter colors, the reds, even some of those darker reds, about to come on shore there in that sort of southern tip there in North Carolina. Okay, right there around Caroline Beach. So that's that. I want to also take a look just while we're doing a live stream, because this is not the only event we've got going on across the country, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here on Tropical Tidbits to also emphasize another hazard that we have, which is we have had severe weather going on all day in the northern plains, and that is likely to continue as we go through the next few days, okay, where we will see continued thunderstorms tracking across the northern plains and through the Dakotas, and even starting to make its way into the Midwest, okay, and we will see this system start to play out as we go through midweek, start to move through the Midwest. We'll see thunderstorms developing all across the Midwest, okay, even stretching down through the Ozarks, and that will continue. Could even see some nasty storms in parts of Missouri as well as Arkansas, and even northern Texas. Okay, some nasty storms, even Iowa getting in on the mix too. And that would be, of course, later in the day. You're talking about Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. So watch that threat as we go through this week, as everybody starts to potentially return back. Some of us, at least, returning back to our jobs after the holiday weekend. Okay, just be on the lookout for that. Especially Tuesday, there could be very widespread severe weather across a lot of very populated areas. After that, you see some isolated stuff pop up as we continue through midweek or so. After that, other than just some scattered, everyday showers and things that typically happen in the summertime with all the buoyancy and instability, you really start to see the pattern sort of calm down, and you have the potential long range. Obviously, you're getting you're starting to get to where the model you can question its accuracy at this point, this far out. But for the most part, everything starts to slow down just a little bit, it looks like, and I can I will pull up some of the upper levels in the atmosphere just to let me. I'm gonna go to. We'll go to 500 millibars just to illustrate this point. Okay, so here's where we are now. Obviously, there's our system that's tracking through the through the upper plains and Midwest. Okay, but as we go forward in time, as a matter of fact, I think this here might some of these other ones might be that system that actually comes through midweek. Yeah, I think this is probably it here. Some of these little waves. So we do see some little waves come through, but overall, especially as we get towards late week, you really start to see this ridge build in at the 500 millibar level, and that's pretty representative of what happens in the upper parts of the atmosphere. And that's gonna keep things very hot and dry for a lot of the country as we go through later next week and into the weekend. That's going to keep things very, like I said, very hot, very dry, and just more of that boring summertime pattern that we've kind of missed so far this year. We've had a lot of active events so far, and the active events just keep on coming. Obviously, there are tragedies left and right, like with what happened in Texas with the flooding and all these other things. And of course, we pray over the victims of these different events, and obviously we hope that it's sort of welcome news to see that maybe this might shut off, at least for a few days, all these different events. But like I said, we still got to get through tonight for sure with Chantal about to make landfall in the Carolinas. Okay, it's continuing to spin towards the shoreline. I'm actually going to go ahead and pull in, see if I can't pull in, but I think this is the latest radar image. So that's what we've got going on. We've got this storm spinning towards the coastline. And with that being said, we're going to start to see this really kick in. Everywhere basically from the central South Carolina coastline down here all the way up, well up through North Carolina, probably at least through Surf City. You're really going to start to see those tropical storm force winds kick in here in the next few hours. So we can continue to monitor this. I'm actually not sure if the National Hurricane Center is planning on issuing hourly advisories at this point, but it'd be something interesting to see if they do. It is certainly possible. Probably at least as we go through the overnight hours, I think they will start to, but I'm not sure. I could actually probably look at this real quick. Okay, so yeah, it says next advisory at 2 a.m. Eastern Time, so it doesn't look like they are going to kick in the hourly advisories just yet, if they're going to do it at all. So this is probably the most amount of data that we're going to have at least from the National Hurricane Center for now. Obviously, we will continue to follow for the latest updates on that. So I want to take a little bit of a break again from the storm. Let's take a look out in the plains really quick. Let's take a look at some of these severe thunderstorm warnings out here. Some of the things that are going on out in the plains, because this is pretty serious stuff. Some of it, anyways. We haven't seen a whole lot of tornado reports, but we have definitely seen severe thunderstorm warnings and things of that nature. So let's go ahead and go to the last frame. So we're looking actually kind of near and sort of even north of Rapid City, South Dakota. Let's see what we've got here at 9:29 p.m. Mountain Time. Severe thunderstorms were located along a line extending from 7 miles north of Marcus to 12 miles north of Crichton. to 5 miles northeast of Wasta, moving east at 35 miles per hour, hazard 60 mile per hour wind gusts. So it looks like, most of these, it's not a huge severe weather story probably, but nonetheless, it's primarily seems to be a wind threat with most of these, even not even really seeing too much on the hail side. We can still look at a ZDR, but really, for the most part, looks like just very heavy rain coming down. Not much of hail core in any of these, but you do kind of see, you actually sort of see some rotation up here. Very broad rotation, but you do see rotation up here, and that would be a little bit of a concern in my eyes, especially as it's starting to plow through Stoneville and perhaps also Marcus here in just a few minutes. So definitely, if you're in those areas, be on the lookout. You do have this could be somewhat of a destructive storm as it moves through with that rotation there on the northern flank of that storm. Let's take a look at some other ones. So we've got, let's see, we've got this one down here in Kansas. Alright, so let's see what we've got going on here. Okay, so here we actually have 60 mile per hour wind gusts and quarter size hail. And some of the areas under the gun here, talking about Russell Springs, Selkirk, Tribune, and Leoti. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but oh well. So yeah, not seeing too much rotation with it, but let's take a look at since it did mention a hail core, possibly. I mean, there are it's a little more ominous, but I think primarily just dealing with a heavy rain and a wind threat here. I don't think we're going to see too much of a hail core there. Since we already can see this one here in Colorado, we'll go ahead and take a look at it as well. Whoops, let me switch back to base reflectivity. Okay, so we actually have it, it's actually, you can kind of see it within the cone of silence there. So basically, just for those of you who are not aware, this is a common thing that happens with radars. You see this little donut hole right here, and the reason that occurs is because the radar is shooting out and not straight up, okay? So the radar is shooting out, so it's missing everything that's directly overhead of the radar tower, and to some extent a little bit of a radius outwards. Okay, that's why you see that feature there. That's what's referred to as the cone of silence. So if you ever hear me or any other meteorologist refer to that term, the cone of silence, that's what that's referring to. And actually, it's a major problem when you're trying to track a storm like this. Okay, but nonetheless, you get the general idea of what's going on. We can see it's on all sides of the radar tower, and so let's see what we've got going on. 60 mile per hour wind gusts, and oh boy, $50 size hail. Okay, so this is a little bit more of a issue. So let's see if we can take a look here. I mean, I'm not seeing too much of a hail core, at least on ZDR. Perhaps let's take a look at correlation coefficient. I mean, you do see some dropping. And of course, it doesn't help that you have the cone of silence in the way there. But let's do this. We will. Where's the next closest radar tower? Let's go with. We'll go with Denver. Let's see if Denver gives us anything about that one in terms of. Let's see. What exactly is going on with it. So yeah, you do see some drops in correlation coefficient just a little bit here. That could be where that hail core is. Talking about, why are we not seeing any? I guess this must just be a very rural area between Wigwam and Carville up here. That's really the only place that's even being notated on here. The only civilized area that's being notated on here is Carville. So definitely it is starting to head that way. So Be on the lookout if you live in that area, if you know anybody in that area. Looks like it's heads pretty much through a very rural areas here. Let's see. So you do. I mean, I can kind of see where you might have that hail core with, those are pretty high DBZ values right there. And that's probably where if you have a $half size hail core anywhere, it's probably right there. Right there. So especially for the folks near this radar tower here. Could be somewhat of a issue moving through there. So hopefully the staff there can stay safe as this is going through. But otherwise, looks like a fairly remote area this is moving through. We'll take a look here at this one in New Mexico. That we have another severe thunderstorm warning here. It's actually right on the border, almost with Texas. Alright, so 60 mile per hour wind gusts and quarter size hail. It's moving southeast at 15 miles per hour. So once again, pretty much it's moving through a rather remote area. You do have some places like Weber City and Field here, as well as, I'm not exactly sure what highway this is right off the top of my head, but you also see it heading. Actually, I'm not. That's never mind. The interstate's up here, but there is somewhat of seems like somewhat of a major highway down here as well as this, especially that gust front too, is carrying with it. I think even some looks like some lightning as well, and maybe even a little bit of rain out ahead of it. So the storm itself, we'll just have to see. It seems to be gusting out. You may see a secondary storm system sort of fire, especially as it moves over this area here, as that gust front moves over this area here between Crider through Melrose and out through Clovis, New Mexico. So that'll be something to watch. Let's take a look at the hail core, if anything. Yeah, not really seeing too much on differential reflectivity. Just for the most part, it looks like just a major hail maker there, or not. I shouldn't say hail maker. A major rain maker. Excuse me. That's what it's looking like. So, with that being said, I think there was one other severe thunderstorm warning I didn't cover. Okay, so these two are just essentially, it's basically the same storm. There's just two of them issued. So let's what else do we have here? We've got some other. Okay. Special marine warnings in Guam, as well as. Okay, so we actually, this is actually somewhat interesting. So we have a special marine warning issued just off the coastline with, of course, Tropical Storm Chantal. And let's see, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing waterspouts was located near Raritan Wreck, moving northwest at about 40 miles per hour, and hazard waterspouts and wind gusts to nearly 60 miles per hour. So we're like I said, you do have the potential for things to potentially spin up in some of these thunderstorms as they move on shore, and you actually see a couple of bolts of lightning there. So this is going to be headed towards the general direction of North Myrtle Beach, Carolina shores, as well as Holden Beach, North Carolina. And so be on the lookout there. Just know within, and you actually do see a little bit of rotation on the velocity almost. And I want to we'll go ahead and punch in the storm. I should say we'll go ahead and punch in the storm relative velocity here. Go ahead and get that on the map for this band, just so we have that to work with, because obviously this is going to help a lot with tracking tornadoes and water spouts as they come on land. If we can also get storm relative velocity and factor in those high rotational speed of those bands. So I'm going to remove this, and I think we have our yes. Okay, so it turns out this is actually moving. It's moving northwest at about 40 knot, or excuse me, about 36 knots. So just over 40 miles per hour is not the wind speed necessarily, but the movement speed of this band. So it's rotating inland at a speed of about 40 miles per hour. This band here that's got this marine warning up. So let's see if we can now, let's take a look at, so this is base velocities. This is not factoring any storm motion into it, but let's take a look at storm relative velocity and factor in. Okay. Perhaps something there. Okay, where you do see, I mean, it's not real spot on, but I mean, you do see somewhat of a rotational signature there, where you have outbound winds right up against the inbound winds. Obviously, these are winds moving. The green is obviously here's the radar side up here, and the green, you're seeing winds that are going towards the shoreline, which makes sense. That's just your counterclockwise rotation. That's of course what the winds would generally be doing. But you do see a little bit of red where you see actually winds coming the other direction, going back out to sea in that little rotational spot right there. So that could potentially be a water spout, and obviously if it holds together, which is somewhat lofty, but it could. If it holds together, you're talking about places like Sunset Beach, Carolina Shores, maybe even Ocean Isle Beach, because again, it's hard to tell exactly where it would go. But even I wouldn't even take Holden Beach off the radar either. That's something that could potentially come on land and produce a tornado. That right there. So we will definitely continue to monitor this. I'm gonna probably stream for just at least a little bit so we can see how some of this plays out. I'm also going to what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up the live chat on my computer, so that way if you all have any questions. By the way, if you have asked any questions and I haven't responded to this, why? Because I don't even have it pulled up. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up so that we can I can look at it and see if you all have any questions. You're free to send them in chat, and I will do my best to answer them. So let's see here. All right, so let me pull this up, and we'll get this going here. Alright, so let's see. Do we have anything in chat? I don't think so. Alright, so no questions in chat. That's fine. Again, like I said, if you're watching, please remember to like the stream down below, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, and of course make sure that you support the channel if you feel up to it. If you have something, you don't have to buy anything that you wouldn't normally buy. Just if you're going shopping, don't just go shopping. Use the links. Do it the smart way. Use the links in the description of the video, to where not only can you go shopping, but you also support the channel while you're at it. So with all that being said, this is what we've got going on. This is our storm, and this is what's coming ashore. Okay, we've got the potential for water spouts to come ashore as tornadoes. This is not probably going to be the only case. Okay, we're probably going to see this threat ramp up as we go through the overnight hours, where we're going to see these little cells that pop up. Okay, these little these rain bands coming ashore. These ones that are the real deal. Okay, they're packing those tropical storm force winds and lots of vertical wind shear, especially. You saw how I mentioned that the 4,000 foot altitude wind report that was into hurricane force. Okay, that just goes to show, you have wind speeds there increasing drastically with height with this system, and that helps create some of the wind shear that is necessary to produce some of these tornadoes and waterspouts. Okay, so this is going to be an issue with this system. The fact that you could have waterspouts, tornadoes spin up and move on shore with these bands as they come ashore, and that's with any landfalling system that you definitely have that threat. Okay, so we will continue to watch it. It's mainly this little nasty cell right here that's moving onshore. It's moving towards the land at about 40 miles per hour, and it's packing with it. It's packing some rotation. In the form, which actually it looks like to some extent this is fizzled out. That does not mean that it could not redevelop again, or it could redevelop in a different area. You also see these other little spinnies behind it. For lack of a better term, I know I'm using very scientific language, but these little spin-ups. Okay, there could be more than one. Okay, this is just the first one that we've really seen all day develop and pose any direct threat to the shoreline potentially. It seemingly has dissipated for now, but that does not mean that it could not redevelop, or another band could certainly come in with the potential for to produce some kind of a rotating storm in the form of a rotating cell, I should say, in the form of a water spout or a tornado. So that's essentially what's going on. We've got this rain band, this rain band here. It's going to be packing some relatively heavy rain, especially in these yellows on the radar that you see. Okay, and it's starting to move onshore. Everything from Bald Head Island to Southport to Curie Beach to Carolina Beach. Okay, you're starting to get the rain now. You're starting to get the rain. You're starting to get the wind. And I think it would be interesting. Let's see if we can find a current observation, perhaps, or current observations for the coastline there. So bear with me for just a second as I do that, and I will leave the radar up on screen so you all can watch as this is coming in. So let's see what let's see what we can get as far as a weather observation for parts of the Carolina coast. And of course, as I'm doing this, be sure to like the stream down below, subscribe to the channel, and of course do all the other stuff that I mentioned earlier. Use the links, share the stream. Also, this is an important thing too. Make sure that the bell is that you've rung the bell, and make sure it says that you are getting all notifications. That way, whenever I do go live like this, there's a chance I may go live at some point tomorrow as the storm is moving inland. May even be tomorrow morning. I don't want to promise anything, but there is a chance I may go live tomorrow to do some analysis, especially as the storm is moving inland and more than likely falling apart. But nonetheless, let's see what we've got here. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to go to another site where I'm a little more confident that I can get current obs. But yeah, so this is the storm. Next advisory is going to come in about 2 hours on it, and we'll get another update. I don't think we're going to stream that long, but nonetheless, for those of you who want to, obviously just go to the National Hurricane Center website and follow it yourself, nhc.noaa.gov. Or I'm not going to stay up that late, but those of you who are really would like to have the latest on the storm, and perhaps for good reason if you live in the area and wanna if you're staying up and you're following it as it's coming in, as it is somewhat of a hazardous event potentially. All right, so here we go. I think we're getting this pulled up now. Let's see what we've got going on here as far as observations. All right, so let's see, at Southport / Cape Fear Regional Airport, we have a as of, let's see, this is as of 10:45, or excuse me, I should say 11:45 Eastern Time, 10:45 here at the studio. We have a report from Cape Fear Regional Airport in North Carolina, which is just to show you right down here. Okay, we have a report. Not too impressive. We do see obviously some light rain being reported. Visibility starting to come down to 6 statute miles. We see. Let's see what else. We actually see lightning distant. That's what's being reported. Lightning distant at this airport, perhaps looking offshore towards where we've seen some of those lightning strikes down here. That's probably what that is referring to. With that being said, you also see let's see if we have a wind observation. Looks like 11 knots, so probably about 12, 13 knots, and gusting to 22 knots. So we're seeing wind gusts to about 25 miles per hour there at the airport. And that's, of course, like I said, that's right about here. Okay, just to the north of Bald Head Island, between Bald Head Island and Southport is where that's coming in at. So we're starting to see the effects of this band as it's coming ashore. It's dumping a little bit of rain now. We are seeing the winds starting to see some gusty winds coming ashore, and that's going to continue. Okay, the most of this, like I said, has not even made on shore yet. I also want to take a look. Let's see what else we have here. If we go further down the coastline, I'm just reading through this, so if you could bear with me here. So we actually have a report out of Myrtle Beach Airport, Myrtle Beach International Airport. Winds gusting to 24 knots. So that, like I said, that roughly translates to we're closing in on 30 mile per hour wind gusts there in Myrtle Beach. And like I said, most of the really bad stuff is still offshore. This is just this little band that's started to feed in here off the ocean. Probably more just moisture than anything. But already starting to see that circulation come ashore and seeing winds gusting close to gale force. Okay, getting and like I said, as we go through the night, we're going to see tropical storm conditions begin for much of the South Carolina and North Carolina coastline. So that's that. We're starting to see the winds pick up. We also have another observation. I want to let's see, where is this here? Okay, so we actually have an observation down here more towards Charleston. This is at Georgetown County, South Carolina, but it's essentially right here. And we're not even seeing. I don't think we're actually seeing. Okay, so there is some light rain coming down. It's not necessarily getting picked up by the Wilmington radar, but I bet if we grab this one here, if we grab Charleston's radar, we maybe actually be able to pick some of that up. So yeah, we are starting to see just some light rain showers start to come down. Nothing too serious, but what I really wanted to focus on here is, again, we have the lightning out in the distance report. We also have wind gusts of around 25 miles per hour even out here. So again, this storm does have somewhat of a wind field associated with it. You know, obviously 25 miles an hour not going to do much, but as we go through the overnight hours, we are going to start to see those winds really ramp up, especially whenever this comes on shore. That's really when everything is going to very quickly go downhill, is when all of this sort of rotates over South Carolina and North Carolina. And that, of course, will occur within the next few hours as the storm makes landfall. Okay, they actually dropped, it looks like they dropped that marine warning that was down here. Okay, and actually I'm gonna pull up Wilmington's radar again just so we can get a better picture of what's going on with what we really want to focus on with the storm. But they actually dropped. Okay, they dropped the marine warning. So like I said, I think that was pretty much associated with that area of rotation that we had. How we had this. Whoops. Let me go back to the beginning. Oops. Okay, we had our little area of rotation down here, and then it has fizzled out, and so subsequently they have dropped the marine warning because of that. But that being said, don't let your guard down overnight. Okay, be careful. Be ready for tornado warnings, perhaps additional marine warnings to be issued. You know, obviously, hopefully nobody's out in the water in the middle of this tropical storm, but nonetheless, you know, you see these marine warnings get issued with the potential for water spouts. Well, any of those water spouts could move on land as tornadoes, and that's the way you've got to think about it. If you're down there at the beach and you see a water spout, just know that, you know, that obviously you want to definitely take shelter and get out of the way, because that's likely, very likely, could come on shore as a tornado and start doing major damage. So, with that being said, there's your storm, there's your wind field, and going back to the reflectivity, that's what you have. You have, again, it's knocking on the door of the Carolina coast. It really is. You know, the main activity here. It's about to come on shore. You know, here you've got these little, you know, bits of moisture coming ashore. These little rain showers coming on shore. They're mostly just moisture being fed in off the Atlantic Ocean, associated with all the extra moisture associated with Tropical Storm Chantal. And then, of course, you know, this is sort of band number 1, and you could even call this sort of, you know, down here, you can almost call this, like, up here, band number 1. You could say this is band number 2, and then down here, this is where your real bad weather exists right here. This is where this is sort of where your northern eye wall. You know, it's a very lopsided eye wall, of course. You're not really seeing anything occurring down here. But nonetheless, you do have sort of that eye wall structure, at least on the northern side of the storm, and that's where your nastiest of the nastiest is going to come on shore with it. Okay, right there. It's spinning. Obviously, you can see it spinning towards Myrtle Beach, towards Surfside Beach, and even North Myrtle Beach and Carolina Shore is probably going to get in on it again, because you got to remember the storm is not just going straight into the coastline either. It's continuing to move north. So we may actually see I think it will probably still see a landfall. It'll be in South Carolina, probably somewhere around North Myrtle Beach if I had to guess. But just looking at what we have to work with right now. But nonetheless, all this eye wall, it's going to affect both parts of South Carolina and North Carolina. This eye wall will. That's a given. So yeah, just a very, very lopsided storm, as was expected. But if you are in the part of it, in the northern half of it, that's where the worst of the weather is going to be coming ashore. And that's where you can expect things to rapidly go downhill as it does. So we will continue to monitor this for a little while. I also want to take a look. I'm just going to check on the stream for just okay. So I think the stream is still going well, and that's good because last time we had some technical difficulties with it. Couldn't get the camera on the last couple of times. Couldn't get it to actually come on. So I'm glad it's actually able to work better this time around. I also want to take a look. I'm just going to take a look at Morehead City's radar real quick. I'm just going to pull it up, and that way we can see, because you actually have some nasty little cells starting to rotate towards the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and you actually see this here coming ashore it's coming out of Pamlico Sound and onto the mainland here. So like I said earlier, this is not just one little point. Okay, this is not just, oh well, the storm is going to make landfall probably somewhere around Myrtle Beach and all the impacts are there. No, this is causing inclement weather, not even just down here where the tropical storm force wind field is, but even as far north as places like Hatteras, as places like Nag's Head up here, Kill Devil Hills. That's where we're seeing also some of these bands start to feed in off the ocean associated with the circulation. So like I said, make sure that you like the stream down below, subscribe, share with your friends, your family, anybody that you know that is in the affected area of the storm. Make sure that you share this with them and tell them to subscribe to my channel, because it is at my channel that we will be posting updates. I will be going live, more than likely tomorrow, to do, give further details on the storm. So not really seeing anything too impressive as far as wind reports. Let's see. Actually, what do we have here? Yeah, so really on the northeastern side of this, I do want to bring this up really quick. So there's actually a wind report out of Swansboro / Bogue Field, North Carolina, which, just to give you some references to where that is, it's actually not far. It's not far from. It's right over here. Okay, right over here. and there's not even there's not even rain coming down at the moment. In fact, it's not even all the way overcast at the moment there at Swansboro Field, but yet we have wind gusts being reported as high as 30 miles per hour there. So it just goes to show, the wind field is large here, okay? This storm is going to have impacts well outside the cone, well outside wherever it ends up making landfall tonight, and or I should say very early tomorrow morning technically. And look at this nastiness just spinning on shore, about to spin on shore. So I'm gonna go back to Wilmington and take a look at it. So like I said, here you see, obviously you've got all these little moisture cells coming ashore ahead of the real mess down here. And then of course you sort of have band number 1, you have band number 2. You can even say band number 3 even here. You can even kind of separate this down here with this up here. Then you have your northern eye wall, and that's where your nasty of like I said, your nastiest of the nastiest is coming ashore. You actually have a lightning associated with the storm, which just goes to show, it is a very fired up storm. Okay, it is a very fiery storm. There's a reason it's strengthened in the past 3 hours with that last advisory. Okay, there's a reason it did that. It's because it is getting its act together. It's still out over the warm waters of the Atlantic, and it's it does have wind shear. It's not the most organized system, but it does have factors that are contributing to its growth. Okay, and that lightning is very symbolic of just how fiery this storm is, especially near its core. And with all that being said, you may see the storm actually intensify further. Currently the National Hurricane Center's forecast is for it to come on shore almost as is, and not really do anything. That could change. Okay, it could get upgraded the next advisory at the 2 a.m. advisory right before it makes landfall. It could get upgraded to a 60 mile per hour storm, a 65 mile per hour storm. Okay, they may update us even before then if it does that. But nonetheless, this is what we've got going on. And it's now just after midnight on the East Coast where the storm is making landfall, and right here it's 11:12 p.m. Central Time. And I'll go ahead and we've been looking at the radar for a little while, so I'm going to pull up the wind speed probabilities just to show, and this really has come up in the past day or so. So you see, so the brown color, which is essentially right here, everything enclosed, down here, you're talking about you have a greater than 50-50 shot of seeing tropical storm force winds as the storm makes landfall. And I'll even let's see, did they have a 50 knot? Okay, so I think this is a little bit of I honestly think they're a little overconfident that the storm is not going to strengthen more than it already has. I think you very well could actually see 50 knot winds observed in certain spots. At least gusts to that strength as the storm moves on shore. And in terms of the rainfall potential, calling for most areas calling for 2 to 4 inches, at least where north of and near and north of where the storm is expected to make landfall, with a very isolated area being picked up on the models of 4 to 6. And that just goes to show, localized areas you could have, and take that dot with a grain of salt. That dot could be anywhere where you have training rain bands setting up. You could see a lot of rain come down in a very short amount of time. So just be aware of that as we go through the overnight hours and the storm continues to churn towards the coastline. So I'm going to go back to the radar here. Here's what we've got going on. Let's take a look again at the velocity, okay? I mean, this is a lot of nasty, this is very nasty weather right here. You're talking about right here, this isn't even that far off the ground. This is about 2,000 feet off the ground right here where my clicker is. It's actually just south of Bald Head Island. You've got winds being observed close to 60 miles per hour by the radar, 2,000 feet off the ground. Okay, close to 60 miles per hour right there just off the coast of Bald Head Island. And that's enough. At that point, if that hits a rooftop, that's you're getting into the territory of that could if that happens to get any closer to the surface and you see a wind like that hit a rooftop right there along the coastline, that's enough. You're getting into territory where you could see power get knocked out. You can even see a couple shingles get ripped off of some roofs, especially houses that are right there by the coastline and not a whole lot of friction present. Just the wind's just coming straight in off the ocean. That's a possibility there. So, and obviously, mobile homes, it's going to be a rough night for those who are staying in a mobile home in the path of this storm, especially in the path of this tropical storm force wind field. Things could be very rough. Let's just say very rocky night for folks staying in those mobile homes as the storm comes on shore. So there's the latest on it. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up the stream for the night, just because it is getting late, and there's really not a whole lot more to talk about with the storm. Obviously, you see the picture. Okay, it's coming on shore. The rain band's coming on shore. Really now more than ever, I think. And this is something I do want to point out. Really now more than ever, you are starting to see a lot of rain coverage from what is likely to be the most affected areas. Okay, the time to prepare for the storm is over now. Okay, it's over. Just hunker down, weigh it out, and at the end of the day, it is just a tropical storm. And I say that it's not, it shouldn't be life-threatening. It should not be life-threatening so long as proper precautions are taken, and that just use general common sense. Okay, try to avoid low-lying areas. Try to avoid places that flood very easily. Avoid going out. Just avoid going out tonight, tomorrow morning. There's no reason to be out at midnight anyways. Okay, just hunker down. Try to. I would imagine even probably. I would assume most churches in the area probably closed tomorrow morning. Stay home, watch the service online, and try to avoid traveling in this one. It's really just not the best idea. Avoid the roads. Just stay put, and don't let don't become a statistic of this storm. Just this little tropical storm. No reason for that whatsoever. And of course, exercise extreme caution at the beaches. I cannot emphasize that enough. While also watching for flooding in places. You definitely, if you go to the beach, be very, very careful. Those waves are going to be rough, and those rip currents are going to be there. So be very, very careful. And really, you probably want to just avoid going in the water if you can. But with that being said, you're starting to see the rain come on shore. I'm going to take a look at aviation weather one more time, just to see if we have any significant wind reports to talk about. I don't think we will. I mean, yeah, it seems to be pretty much just same old, same old. Same thing we were dealing with, where you have winds starting to be somewhat breezy, somewhat gusty in some cases. Obviously, as rain is starting to fall. Most of the strongest winds still just offshore at the moment, but that's likely to change as we go. Just probably within the next 2 hours. I would say by 2 a.m. Eastern time, I think we're going to start to see tropical storm conditions on land. And I really do. I think it's going to take its time, but because this is a relatively slow moving storm. Excuse me. Relatively slow moving storm. It is starting to slowly pick up speed, though. It's starting to very slowly accelerate to the north, but still it's not moving very quickly. But nonetheless, I think we will start to see tropical storm conditions come on land there in the Carolinas. So with that being said, that's your tropical update. We also went through the weather forecast, and just courtesy, obviously, to Tropical Tidbits, College of Dupage, and Aviation Weather for providing some necessary weather data for helping to aid in the stream, of course. And with all that being said, again, make sure that you like the stream down below, subscribe, and share the stream. Okay. Actually, do have some comments in here in the chat. This is yeah. So like I said, it's moving into the Carolinas. Who is Miss Fisher? I'm genuinely curious. Who is Miss Fisher? Miss Fisher in Myrtle Beach. What does that mean? What does that mean? Who is Miss Fisher? Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of people in these destinations right now. These are major tourist destinations, and like I said, this is not a storm you want to play around with. And like I said, you're going to see tropical storm conditions come ashore in places like Myrtle Beach, in places like North Myrtle Beach, Carolina shores, as well as heading up towards Wilmington and Wrightsville Beach up here. But that's pretty much the wrap with the storm. Like I said, we don't have any updates from the National Hurricane Center. The next advisory is coming in about an hour and a half. So like I said, you can go to the National Hurricane Center's website, I should say, if you want more details on that when it comes in. It's definitely, like I said, it would not shock me at all if this storm continues to strengthen between now and then. You see the barometric pressure continue to tumble and those winds continue to rise, especially with some of these velocity reports that we've seen, where we've seen velocities not too high off the ground, closing in on 60 miles per hour. So it wouldn't shock me at all if it gets upgraded some more. When I say upgrade, I don't think we're going to get a hurricane out of this. I mean, just the wind speed coming up just a little bit more before it makes landfall. I just wanted to clarify that. So I think, like I said, I think we're probably going to end up with somewhere, probably at landfall of 50 to 60 mile per hour tropical storms. So mid to, I guess, slightly strong tropical storm making landfall there in northeastern South Carolina. Probably somewhere, probably looking at a landfall somewhere near North Myrtle Beach, and somewhere probably either North Myrtle Beach or Carolina Shore, somewhere in there, in that general area is where we're going to see the center of the storm cross over. But with all that being said, I think we're going to wrap this up. And thank you to all of you who have tuned in. Like I said, be sure to support the channel. Use the links, like, subscribe, share, ring the bell so you get all notifications. Make sure it says all. And with all that being said, everyone stay safe. Like I said, don't become a statistic. The storm, it's just a tropical storm. It's not worth it, okay? Don't become a statistic of it. I don't. If I decide to stream tomorrow, I don't want to be reading anyone's, any statistic about anyone who just did something they shouldn't have done, and unfortunately lost their life or whatever. And we don't want to see that. Okay, we want to see everybody just be smart, stay out of the water, stay off the roads if you can. Just stay put. It's gonna be a nasty morning. It's going to be a nasty Sunday morning. Just stay put inside and let everything clear out. The storm will be moving on by and dissipating out before too long. So with that being said, I think that's pretty much it. You can see the storm. It's moving on shore. There's not really much else to talk about. And so I am going to head out. Thank you for tuning in.